Welcome to Storytime with Nanny, day 38. We're going to start with a book that was mine when I was younger. So it's been around a little while. It's called Cinderella by Charles Perrault. It's adapted by Janet Fulton and pictures are by Rose Art Studios. There was once a gentleman who took for his second wife a proud, haughty woman who had 2 daughters much like herself. He too had a daughter, but she was pretty and sweet as her mother had been. No sooner was the wedding over than the stepmother began to show her true nature. She could not bear it that her husband's daughter had such good qualities, while her own children were mean-tempered and mean girls. She treated the girl miserably and made her do all the dirtiest work in the house. All day long the poor girl scrubbed and scoured while her stepsisters grew lazy and vain. The child dared not tell her father, for he was completely under the control of his new wife. When she had finished her chores, she would sit in the chimney corner among the ashes and soot. So her stepsisters began to call her Cinderella. It happened that the king's son gave a ball and invited all the people of fashion to it. Cinderella's stepsisters were invited, and for days before the event, they busied themselves choosing their gowns. They required Cinderella to wait on them and to iron their petticoats and ruffles. At last the day of the ball arrived. The sisters stood before the mirror for hours admiring their finery. Cinderella was sent for to arrange their hair, for she had excellent taste in such matters, and she did her best to make them look lovely, even though they mistreated her. "Ah, Cinderella, wouldn't you love to go to the ball too?" asked the elder sister maliciously. Cinderella's eyes sparkled at the thought, but she replied, "You are only making fun of me. I could not go dressed like this, and these are the only clothes I have." "You're right," said the younger sister. "People would laugh to see a cinder maid at a ball." Tears came to Cinderella's eyes, but she said nothing and went on about her work. At last the stepsisters went off to the palace, and Cinderella was alone. She ran to the chimney corner and sat with her head on her knees and began to cry. "Why are you weeping, my dear?" said a sweet voice. Cinderella looked up in surprise to see a beautiful fairy standing near. "I am your godmother," said the fairy, "and I can help you. You wish to go to the ball, is that not so?" Cinderella stopped crying and nodded her head. Her godmother led her outside, saying, "Go to the garden and bring me a fine round pumpkin." Cinderella did as she was asked, although she did not see how a pumpkin would help her get to the ball. The fairy godmother tapped it with her wand. Instantly it turned into a beautiful gilded coach. The fairy godmother then went to a mouse trap which held 6 mice. Opening the door, she tapped each mouse as it ran out, turning it into a fine dabbly gray horse. Soon 6 prancing horses stood at the coach. "Now," said the fairy godmother, "we need a coachman. See if there is not a rat in the rat trap." Cinderella ran off to the granary and returned with a trap in which there was a large rat. One tap from the godmother's wand, and a jolly fat coachman stood before them. "After that," she said, "behind the watering can are 6 lizards. Bring them to me." Cinderella had no sooner done so that the fairy touched them with her wand, and out sprang 6 footmen in red and gold livery. Quick as a wink, they climbed behind the coach. "Now," said the fairy godmother, "you can go to the ball in style. Are you not pleased?" "Oh, yes," said Cinderella, "but how can I go in these awful rags?" The fairy godmother touched her with a wand, and in an instant the rag dress was turned into a magnificent gown of gold and silver cloth, decorated with jewels. She had a cloak of red velvet with glittering gold trim, and a lovely pair of glass slippers sparkled on her feet. As she climbed into the coach, her godmother gave this warning, Above all, remember that you must leave the ball before midnight, because on the stroke of midnight your coach will once more be a pumpkin. Your horses will again become mice, your coachman a rat, and your footmen lizards. Everything will be as it was." Cinderella promised to obey, then off she drove, her heart full of happiness. A great stir went through the gathering when Cinderella arrived at the ball. Everyone thought the unknown newcomer must be a great princess. All that evening the prince sat at her side and danced every dance with her. He was enchanted by her beauty and charm. Cinderella sat for a while with her stepsisters and shared with them a basket of fruit the prince had brought her. They were flattered that the lovely and mysterious princess was paying so much attention to them. While Cinderella was talking with her stepsisters, the clock struck 11:45. Quickly she rose and curtsied her farewells to the company. She hastened to her coach and arrived home safely before midnight. Cinderella thanked her godmother and begged to be allowed to return to the ball on the next night. She was eagerly describing the handsome prince when her stepsister's coach arrived. Cinderella ran to the door, rubbing her eyes as though she had just awakened. The stepsisters could talk of nothing but the beautiful princess who had been at the ball. They told Cinderella that the king's son would give all the world to know who she was. Cinderella smiled but said nothing. The next evening the stepsisters were again at the ball, and so was Cinderella, looking even more beautiful than before. The prince was so entranced with her goodness and beauty that he spent the entire evening at her side. Cinderella was so pleased by the attention of the handsome prince that she forgot her godmother's warning. As the clock began to strike midnight, however, she suddenly remembered. Cinderella sprang to her feet and fled, nimble as a deer. The prince followed, but he could not overtake her. However, he found one of her glass slippers, which had fallen from her foot as she ran down the stairs. Cinderella reached the palace courtyard on the 12th stroke of the clock, once again in rags. In the place of her magnificent coach was a pumpkin. A rat, 6 mice, and 6 lizards scurried away. Cinderella had not been home long when her stepsisters arrived from the ball, excited by the hasty disappearance of the beautiful lady. "The prince is heartbroken and has vowed to find her," the younger one told Cinderella. A few days later, the king's son issued a public announcement. It said that he would marry the girl whose foot the slipper would fit. His footmen went throughout the kingdom, trying the slipper first on the princesses and duchesses of the court. In time they arrived at the home of the stepsisters. Each tried as hard as she could to force her foot into the slipper, but it was no use. Cinderella, of course, knew it was her slipper and asked if she might try it. The 2 stepsisters began to laugh and make fun of her, but the princess' orders were to let everyone try. So one of the footmen asked Cinderella to sit down. He held out the slipper and found that it slid on her foot easily and fit her perfectly. The stepsisters were astonished, but their surprise was even greater when Cinderella took the matching slipper from her pocket and put it on. At that moment her godmother appeared and touched her with a wand. Cinderella stood before them, just as she had appeared at the ball. The stepsisters began to apologize to her for the dreadful way they had treated her. Cinderella forgave them because it was her nature to be kind and forgiving. The princess's footman conducted Cinderella to the waiting carriage, and she was driven to the palace. The prince was overjoyed to see his beloved, and they were married a few days later. Cinderella brought her 2 stepsisters to live with her in the palace, and they were soon married to 2 lords of the court. So Cinderella forgave her stepsisters and forgave them dearly to have them come live with her. She didn't have to do that, did she? But she was kind and sweet. Give me half a second. I do need to check on something real quick. Okay, everything was fine. Thought it was making a weird noise, and I thought, don't tell me the tape had shut off. It hadn't. I don't know what that was. I know, Summer, I had to check on something for just a quick second. Just a quick second. Let's read Just Me and Dad by Mercer Mayer. We did read, I think it was he spent a day with his granddad. The first and only book so far we've read, and this one he spends the day with his dad. It says, we went camping, just me and my dad. Dad drove the car because I'm too little. I picked the campsite, but someone was already living there, so I gave it back. It looks like a badger, maybe, and a snake, and I see a spider. We found another campsite nearby. My dad was tired, so I pitched the tent. We made a campfire. I found the wood, and my dad lit the fire. I wanted to take my dad for a ride in our canoe, but I launched it too hard. We went fishing instead. My dad took a snapshot of the fish we caught. Then I cooked dinner for me and my dad. I gave my dad a big hug. That made me feel better. Then we went to bed. I stayed up with my dad and let him read a story to me. We slept in our tent all night long, just me and my dad. So he got to spend a camping trip with his dad, and that's fun. Well, it was fun for him. Not everybody's the same. I would not have been really happy about going camping personally. That's just me though. Let's read A Visit to the Doctor with Ronald McDonald. And I know that I found it earlier, I'm thinking. Because Ronald McDonald does sponsor to the Ronald McDonald House, and so that they know that children have to go to the doctor, and this was written just so you'd understand like the things that were going to happen. And it's just says Ronald McDonald House, so it's not given a name. I was thinking I found one, but I guess not. So it was copy written, I guess, by Mead and Johnson and Company. From time to time, everyone has to go to the doctor. Moms and dads, sisters and brothers, grandmothers and grandfathers, and you. Going to the doctor is a good thing. The doctor makes sure that you are healthy on the outside of your body and on the inside of your body, from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. All the people at the doctor's office are friendly. The doctor and the nurses are all there to help you. Come with me and I'll show you what happens at the doctor's office. Your mom or dad or another grown-up who is close to you will go with you to the doctor. There will probably be other children at the doctor's office too. Some may be older than you, some may be younger, some may be bigger, and some may be smaller. Sometimes you'll have to wait in the waiting room until the doctor can see you. This can be fun because you can color or read a book or play with toys. When it's your turn to see the doctor, a nurse will call your name. Then you and the grown-up that goes to the doctor with you will go to a special room called the examination room. There's a scale in the examination room that tells how much you weigh. Step up and find out. There's a big ruler on the scale too. This measures how tall you have grown. There's also a table where your doctor will examine you. It's long and high and has paper on it. If you can't get up there yourself, they will help you. You'll probably get your temperature taken. This is done with a thermometer. Just by looking closely at you, the doctor can see many things that tell how healthy you are. Your doctor may examine you from head to toe. Your eyes may need to be checked. This is done with a special type of flashlight. This special flashlight is also used to look in your nose and in your ears. The doctor wants to make sure that they look healthy. Your doctor might want to look in your mouth all the way back to your throat. You can help your doctor to do this. Open your mouth wide and say, ah. Uh-oh, your tongue is in the way. So your doctor may use a tongue depressor to hold your tongue out of the way, and it shouldn't hurt. A tongue depressor is like a big ice cream stick. With a stethoscope, your doctor can hear the sounds of your heart. Your heart goes thump, 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 thump. Your doctor puts a stethoscope on your chest to hear your heart. Maybe your doctor will let you hear your heart too. The stethoscope also lets your doctor hear your lungs. When you breathe, air goes in and out of your lungs. Your doctor puts the stethoscope on your back to hear your lungs. Take a big breath. Your doctor may feel your neck and your chin and tap on your stomach and back. If anything hurts, tell your doctor. Your doctor needs to know. And if you have any questions, go right ahead and ask. You might need to know some things too. Your doctor might tap your knee with a small rubber hammer. Watch what happens. It sure is funny. It kind of makes you give a little kick. It's just a reflex. You can't help it. But it's supposed to do that. You may also get a shot. A shot can help you from getting some types of sicknesses. A shot feels like a pinch. It hurts a little, but only for about as long as it takes to clap your hands. That's all. You're done. When your doctor says your examination is over, you can go home. Now you know what's going to happen at the doctor's office. Everyone will be friendly and wants to help you. The nurses and your doctor just want to make sure that you are healthy. Don't forget to say goodbye. Because they are there to help us. It's not always, fun. I get worked up about it. I think we talked about that before. I'll get all worked up about it, and then once I've gone, it's like, good grief, why did I get so upset? Let's read the Sesame Street What's Up in the Attic. It's by Liza Alexander, and it's illustrated by Tom Cook. It was a drizzly gray day on Sesame Street. Ernie listened to the dreary sound of the rain against the window. There's nothing to do, he groaned. Cheer up, Ern, said Bert. How about a game of Ducky Land? It used to be our favorite. Come on, let's go up to the attic and find it. Bert gave Ernie a flashlight, and they climbed up the steep stairs to the attic door. Ho-hum, sighed Ernie. From the window at the top of the landing, he watched the swollen rain clouds scuttle across the sky. The windows let some light into the gloomy attic. Bert found a couple of old-fashioned lamps and turned them on. Ernie shined his flashlight around the musty attic. Wow, he said, cheering up. There's lots of great junk up here. Where's Oscar when we need him? Hee hee. Ernie, said Bert, this is not junk. This stuff in this attic is like a scrapbook. It can tell us about our past. Ernie knelt down beside a big old trunk. Look at this, Bert. It's Great Aunt Ernestine's trunk. It's been everywhere. Here's a sticker of the Eiffel Tower. That's in Paris, France. And here's a sticker showing the Golden Gate Bridge. That means it's from San Francisco. Wouldn't you like to travel and see the world when you grow up? Bert asked Ernie. I would. Bert pulled a fringed jacket out of the trunk. This trunk is full of family things. This frontier jacket belonged to my grandfather's grandfather, Old Mountain Mike. They say he once wrestled a bear to the ground with his bare hands. He had a coonskin cap, too. Let's look for it. Okay, Bert, said Ernie. A coonskin cap would be pretty neat. We could use it to play cowboy, and it would remind us of the old days, said Bert. I'd look pretty sharp in a coonskin cap. Yes, sirree. Now, where is it? Ernie climbed up on a chair to poke around on top of a wardrobe. Lots of boxes were up there. Bert dug down deeper into the trunk. "Oh, look what I found, Ernie," cried Bert. "Uncle Bart's antique paperclip collection." "Ah, what an antique, old buddy?" asked Ernie. "What's an antique, old buddy?" asked Ernie. "It's something very old. Some antiques are special because they are different from what we use today, and some are special because they belong to someone important. Good old Uncle Bart. He gave me my very first paperclip." Ernie and Bert forgot all about looking for Ducky Land. They even forgot about the rain. But Bert did not forget about the coonskin cap. "It's got to be here somewhere," said Bert. Searching in a far corner, Ernie brushed aside some cobwebs and found his old tricycle. It was much too tiny for him now. "My, how I've grown," said Ernie, as his knees all scrunched up and pedaling the trike. "Let's see how fast this baby can go." "Stop it, Ernie," yelled Bert as Ernie crashed around the attic at high speed. He knocked past the wardrobe, and some of the hat boxes tumbled to the floor. Ernie screeched to a halt in front of a dressmaker's mannequin. Bert wiped his brow. "Phew," he said. Then Bert discovered an old-fashioned record player called a Victrola. He put a record on it and cranked it up to make it go. Nearby, Ernie found a fancy black jacket and a top hat, and he put them on. "May I have this dance?" he asked the mannequin. They waltzed around and around to the Victrola's tiny music as Bert snapped his fingers to the beat. "Look," said Bert, "it's Dandy the rocking horse. Remember what fun we had riding her when we were little?" Bert put on Mountain Mike's jacket. He jumped up into Dandy's saddle and began to sing, "Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play." "Shucks," said Bert, "I sure wish I had that coonskin cap." Ernie slung an old brown rug over his shoulders and lumbered up behind Bert. "Grrr," he said, "I am a bear. Dare you to wrestle me to the ground like old Mountain Mike?" "Don't be ridiculous," said Bert as he swung down off Dandy. "We've got to find that coonskin cap." Then Bert found something interesting. "Oh my goodness, here is one of Bernice's baby pigeon feathers. I forgot I saved it. And here's her baby picture. Wasn't she an adorable chick?" "All right, look at this," said Ernie. "My old marbles." He gathered the marbles and looked around for something to put them in. Then Ernie spotted a furry tail in the boxes. It was attached to Mountain Mike's coonskin cap. "Bert will be so happy," Ernie said to himself as he tossed the marbles into the cap. Bert was so busy searching that he didn't notice what Ernie was doing. "The coonskin cap isn't here anymore," he said with a sigh, taking a last look around the attic. "Let's go back downstairs. The sun is coming out anyway." Ernie balanced all his family treasures in the tricycle basket and rode over to Bert. Ernie plopped the cap on his head, and the marbles from the hat clattered all over the floor. "Ernie," said Bert, "you've lost your—" "Hey, you found it!" "Mountain Mike's coonskin cap." "Sure, Bert, just for you," said Ernie, and he gave Bert the cap. "Ernie, what are you planning to do with all this junk?" asked Bert. "This stuff is just what our place needs," said Ernie. "A dressmaker's mannequin, a tiny tricycle, a top hat, and a fuzzy brown rug. Help me carry a few things, Bert." So they carried all their attic discoveries down the stairs. "This afternoon up in the attic was fun," said Ernie to Bert. "I'm glad I thought of it." Actually, it wasn't his idea, was it? But they both still had fun, didn't they? So they teach us that we can play and get along, and he even helped him find the cap he was looking for. And even though they wanted to play outside to start with, the weather wouldn't allow it, so they made a fun day inside, didn't they? This is The Bernstein Bears by Stan and Jan Bernstein, and it's Learn About Strangers. I know we've talked about that before, but it's a good lesson and a good story. Bear country is safe when every small cub there learns some special lessons from Ma and Papa Bear. Brother and sister Bear, who lived with their Mama and Papa in the big tree house down a sunny dirt road deep in bear country, looked quite a lot alike, except for the fact that brother was a boy cub and sister was a girl cub. They were alike in many ways, even though they each had hobbies. Brother loved to build and fly model airplanes. Sister had all sorts of special interests. They enjoyed many of the same things: bike riding, baseball, soccer, frisbee, and just getting out and enjoying nature. Yes, brother and sister were alike in many ways, but in some important ways they were different. Brother Bear was cautious and careful and a little wary of strangers. Sister, on the other hand, wasn't the least bit wary. She was friendly to a fault. Just about everybody that came her way got a big hello. Hello, Butterfly. Hello, Frog. Hello, Mr. Truck Driver. Hello, Mrs. Shopper. Brother worried about Sister's free and easy way with strangers. Strangers weren't a problem for him. Not talking to strangers suited cautious and careful brother just fine. But friendly to a fault sister was different. She liked talking to everybody. Sister said, "Brother, you're going to have to stop that." "Stop what?" she asked. "Talking to strangers. It's just not a good idea." Why, she wanted to know. Why shouldn't I talk to strangers? What harm is there in it? Is there something wrong with strangers? Said brother, thinking about it for a moment. Those aren't questions for a brother. Those are for Mama or Papa. "Sister Bear, I'm glad you asked those questions," said Papa Bear in his deepest and most serious voice. "The reason you should never talk to a stranger and never ever take presents from a stranger and never ever ever go anywhere with a stranger is that it's dangerous." "What's dangerous about it?" she asked, wide-eyed. "What can happen?" "Oh dear," thought Mama Bear, "I do hope Papa can tell Sister about strangers without making everything scary." "All sorts of things," Papa said. "Here, look at this newspaper." As she looked at it, her eyes got wider and wider. This is what she saw. "Stranger bothers cub. Missing cub found. Chief Grizzly questions stranger. Cub safety meeting." "I hope you're paying attention to all this," called Papa to Brother Bear. "Yes, Papa," said Brother, looking up from his airplanes. When Sister asked for a bedtime story that evening, Papa said, "Of course, I have just the one." It was an old book that Papa had kept since he was a cub. The story was called Silly Goose and Wily Fox. It was how Silly Goose got into a conversation with Wily Fox, and before Silly knew quite what was happening, she found herself in Wally's lair, that's his home. This is how the story ended. Then there was a snip and a snap, and all that was left of Silly Goose was a few floating feathers and a smile on the face of Wally Fox. Sister had had a hard time falling asleep that night. Her mind was filled with those headlines. There was even one that said, "Silly Goose missing, Wally Fox questioned." The sound of Brother Bear's peaceful breathing finally lulled her to sleep. The next day dawned bright and friendly to everybody but Sister. She had spent a restless night, and when she looked out the window, everything seemed a little strange. The trees seemed to reach for her, an owl stared at her, and the crows glared. "Let's go out and ride our bikes on the village green," said Brother after breakfast, but Sister didn't want to. Brother was puzzled. The green was a bright, busy, friendly place where she loved to play. Well, how about some soccer? But she didn't want to do that either. It wasn't until he suggested frisbee, her favorite game, that she agreed to go along. Before they left, they told Mama where they'd be. It was a family rule that they never went anywhere without telling Mama or Papa. "That's fine," said Mama. "I'm on my way to Farmer Ben's apples. I'll stop by for you on the way home." The village green was the same bustling place it had always been. This is what it looked like to everyone but Sister. It's all nice and sunny. This is what it looked like to her. Today, even the frogs and butterflies seemed mean and scary to Sister. Later, when somebody tapped on her shoulder, she jumped a mile, even though it was just Mama. "How was everything at the village green?" asked Mama on the way home in the car. Sister sat in front with Mama, and Brother rode in back with the barrel of apples. "All right, I guess," said Sister, "but there was so many strangers." Later at home, when Mama and Sister were getting ready to make applesauce, Mama said, "You know what Papa told you was quite right. It's not a good idea to talk to strangers or accept presents or rides from them. But she continued, that doesn't mean that all strangers are bad. While chances are there wasn't a single person on that green that would harm a fly, much less a fine little cub like you. The trouble is, well, it's like the barrel of apples. There's an old saying that goes, there'll always be a couple of bad apples in every barrel. That's the way it is with strangers. Cubs have to be careful because of the few bad apples. Look, said Sister, I found one. It's all bumpy and has a funny shape. Well, it certainly is a strange-looking apple, said Mama, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. You can't always tell from the outside which are the bad apples. She cut it in half and said, see, it's fine inside. Now here's one that looks fine on the outside, but inside it's all wormy. Yuck, said Sister. What's up, said Brother. A bad apple, said Sister. Double yuck, said Brother. Hey, I'm going to the meadow to fly my new pusher plane. Want to come? Sure, Sister said. I can pick some wildflowers. She felt much better now, more like her old friendly self. The pusher plane was a great success, and the cubs were about to head home when someone drove into the meadow with a big, beautiful orange and green model airplane. Wait, said Brother, I want to watch. It's a radio-controlled job. Sister went back to picking wildflowers, but before she knew it, Brother was talking to the stranger. For that's what he was, a stranger, no matter how big and beautiful his radio-controlled job was. She dropped her wildflowers and ran over to them. I'm going to send it up and follow in the car, the stranger was saying. Want to come along? Well, said Brother, and he would have if Sister hadn't grabbed his arm and said, don't you dare. The stranger drove off, following his airplane, and Sister ran home shouting, Brother talked to a stranger, Brother talked to a stranger. But it was a big orange and green radio-controlled job, said Brother. That doesn't matter, said Papa. We have rules about strangers, and they're important. We have rules about tattletales, too, said Brother, glaring at Sister. Sister wasn't tattling. Tattling is telling just to be mean, explaining Mama, and Sister was telling because she loves you and was worried. Do you think that fellow was a bad apple? Asked Brother. Probably not, said Mama. That's right, said Sister. Most folks are friendly and nice and wouldn't hurt a fly, but you have to be careful just in case. Speaking of apples, said Mama, how about some of this applesauce I just made? As they sat having a dish of Mama's delicious applesauce, Brother and Sister thought about what they had learned that day. There was quite a lot to think about. For Brother and Sister's rules for cubs, turn this page. 1. Never talk to a stranger. 2. Never take candy or other gifts from a stranger. 3. Never ever go anywhere with a stranger. 4. Don't keep secrets from your parents, especially if someone tells you to. 5. Your body is your own personal property and nobody else's business, especially the private parts. When you're younger, you might need help getting a bath and you will have to go to the doctor, but that's different. And 6. Your common sense. We can't have rules for everything. Common sense is what people what keeps people safe and tells us what to do in situations that are not always covered by rules. I thought that was a good book, and we've already gone a little over today, so that's all we have time for. So I hope you did. I know I've talked to y'all before about not talking to strangers, but I think this thoroughly covered a lot. So I hope you did learn and stay safe. And thank you for joining Storytime with Nanny. I hope you have a great, safe, blessed day.